and welcome back to the Workplace in English MOOC. And this is the last session, Effective Listening Skills. Before we kick off, I would like to say a big thank you to all of your support through the 9 previous sessions. And now we're about coming to the very end of this MOOC. And hopefully you can learn something from this course, and we are also looking forward to your suggestions and comments. Hopefully you can use kind of the knowledge you have learned in this course in your study or in your future's work. Okay, now let's go to the topic. And in this session, firstly, we will try to think about some listening skills in the workplace together. So listening skills in the workplace, as follows, we will provide you some definitions and scenarios with kind of scholars' explanation. The first one, we understand listening from this point of view. It is a critical soft skill that enhances communication, collaboration, and productivity in professional settings. And also, we are having someone for your information. The first one, it is called active listening. Active listening, it is a kind of listening approach by fully engaging with the speaker. Also, it includes the nonverbal feedback, for example, the eye contact and verbal confirmation. We use actually active listening a lot in our daily work. So in this scenario, we can see one example like this. A manager explains a project update. An active listener responds, "To summarize, you need the budget report by Wednesday, correct?" The second one, it is called reflective listening. So reflective listening is all about restating the message from the speakers and then to verify the understanding whether it is good or bad. And here comes the scenario. If a team member says, "I am swamped with a client's emails," and a listener with his or her reflection replies like this, "It sounds like email overload is slowing you down. Should we delegate some responses?" Okay, so this kind of word from the team member can make the reflective listener to try to think about the following actions we should do or what kind of things we need to adjust. So this is a kind of reflective listening. Next one is empathetic listening. So we know the definition of the word empathy. If a person has the empathy, we know he or she will consider others greatly. Is this same or similar with empathetic listening? Now let's check out. Okay, the definition is about acknowledging emotions to build trust. And the scenario is an employee shares burnout concerns. A leader responds, "I see this is really draining. Let's adjust your workload." So this can show the listener can fully understand the painful moments from the employee and try to support accordingly by different measures. The next one, it is called critical listening. Critical listening is evaluating the arguments for logic and evidence. For example, a vendor claims their product boosts efficiency, and a critical listener asks, "What independent study support this?" So you can see the listener of the critical approach is trying to find the logic or to find the reason, the evidence why this plan works out. So this person normally will seize the most important characteristic of the research, of the project, or of their cooperation. So they try to get the very rooted answers based on some facts. So in other words, these kind of listeners pay more attention to the facts. Next one is called informational listening. So in this kind of listening, the listeners always retain the factual details. Like a new hire listens to safety protocols repeating, so gloves are mandatory in the lab. Okay, so this person just seeks the answers of some facts or requirements in the workplace. Number 6, we will have the discriminative listening. And among the listeners, they notice the tone and body language, okay, even more to the verbal ones. So let's see an example together. A colleague says, no problem, while signing. Okay, so this word is very important, signing. So you can see the body movement and also the emotions shown here. A discriminative listener probes, you seem frustrated, want to walk, want to talk. So in this situation, it is a little bit similar between the discriminative and empathetic listening. But discriminative listening pays more attention to the tone or body language, even to the words. Empathetic, maybe they pay more attention to the words, but discriminative, they are even more careful, okay, in listening and also in observing. And number 6 is appreciative listening. So what is appreciative listening? It is a kind of listening for enjoyment, as in the motivational speeches. So like the people, the employees, they engage in a very inspiring TED talk on innovation. So their attendance shows that they are a kind of appreciative listener. Okay, now with a summary table, we can see all of the listening skills we talked about earlier with their definition and workplace scenario. You can also think about in these situations, will you use the same similar listening skills or not? Sometimes we try to avoid, okay, we may avoid the situations by using some corresponding listening skills, right? It's fine, but the correct way is actually you try to use some of them to make yourself a better listener in such situations. Okay, you can try later in such circumstances, or you can have a role play activity with your friends, with your classmates, or with your colleagues so that you can get to use these kind of listening skills in real situations. All right, after talking about the definitions and the types of common listening types, we will focus more on active listening. And at the beginning of introduction of active listening, I prepare you some kind of multiple choice questions. Please refer to these questions one by one together. And before we announce the answers, I will leave you some time so you can pause me as usual and then think about your answer. After that, I will just come to the explanation of the answer for each question. Okay. The first one, what is the primary goal of active listening? A, to prepare your response while the speaker talks. B, to fully understand and engage with the speaker's message. C, to interrupt and clarify points immediately. Or D, to multitask efficiently. Okay, you can think about the answer now. All right, so the answer is B. Okay, hopefully you can get it. Active listening focuses on comprehension. Okay, so if we use the active listening, we try to understand the others, and this understanding should be initiated by yourself. Okay, not just to get the words passively. So you also need a lot of other affiliated features to help you, like the empathy, like the attention, and then after you have the feedback. Okay. Number two, which nonverbal cue demonstrates active listening? A. Checking your phone. B. Nodding and maintaining eye contact. C. Crossing your arms. D. Fidgeting. Okay, hopefully you can get the answer quicker than the last one because it seems a little bit more obvious in question number two. Yes, that is B, right? Nodding and maintaining eye contact because in doing some nonverbal signals, we try to show our engagements. And for others, checking phones, crossing arms, or fidgeting, all of them are not very good engagement behaviors. So they show that you are not happy or not interested in this issue. And on the other hand, it just tells the other person, I'm not interested in listening to you or in communicating with you. Okay. And now we have three more. The next one, what is number three? What is the best way to confirm understanding during the conversation? A. Paraphrasing the speaker's message. B. Changing the subject. 3. Finishing the speaker's sentence. Or D. Asking unrelated question. Okay. The answer for number 3 is reflecting the speaker's words ensures accuracy and shows that you are listening. Okay. So that is A, right? That is A. If you can understand other people, so the best way is try to rephrase, try to reflect the message in a different way so that people can see that your endeavor in understanding the conversation, not like the others. Okay. And number 4, which phrase reflects active listening? A, that's not how we do things here. B, so you are saying the deadline is flexible? C, I don't have time for this. D, let's talk about something else. This is B, okay? This is B. So you're saying the deadline is flexible because if you try to talk about it and then you give the correct information, this is just a way trying to say that you understand it, similar to number 3. So B is the closest answer to under this requirement. Okay. 5, let's see the benefits of the active listening. How does active listening improve teamwork? A, by reducing misunderstandings and building trust. B, by allowing you to dominate conversations. C, by helping you avoid eye contact. Or D, by speeding up meetings. This is A, okay? So teams with active listeners report 25% higher collaboration. We mentioned about that before in session 9 about the data. So you can refer to that session if you forgot about the data we provided. And trust grows when people feel heard. So we can just realize these benefits according to efforts of listening actively. Okay. Now we go to another part that is about the true or false questions to see even more statements about it. Okay. Next one, active listening requires you to agree with everything the speaker says. Is that so? Of course, this is a false. I think you know why, because active listening is all about understanding, not agreements. So if you have some different ideas, that is fine. That is fine. You can argue with the speaker later. You can acknowledge the differences, try to try to express your opinions. That is totally understandable. Okay. The next one, interrupting to ask clarify questions is always bad. Okay, that is also a false because polite interruptions show engagement. For example, you can use a question sentence to mean that you want to express your own opinions, even though this is a kind of interruption, but you already showed that you want to do it for a reason, but you have to pay attention to the correct timing. When should you do this? You cannot do this all the time. First, the frequent interruptions are not polite, and also you have to wait when other people finish their statement, and then you can give some kind of questions. Okay, and also please pay attention to the tone. You cannot just use very rude or very hard, very strong tone to stop somebody. You should be polite. Better use a question. Okay, better use a question to ask a favor, to talk about it, and this is actually a kind of polite interruption. Okay, and now we can go to the common mistakes in active listening, and also we can try to think about some solutions how to fix these mistakes. The first one is just now we mentioned interrupting the speaker. So the mistake is we jumped in with your own thoughts before the speaker finishes. Of course, this is not good. Of course, this is not good. And the better way is we can pause for about 2 seconds after the speakers stop talking. And then we try to interrupt by asking some questions or make some comments. But before you do this, make sure that they have finished their personal, speech. So, for example, if you do this, that is not good. But what about, okay, so when other people say, I want to finish this one on Sunday, and then, so because they're still continuing their speeches, and you stop them abruptly, and you say, but how about, Saturday? You cut them off. So that is very impolite. So instead, you can just say this word, okay, after they finish, I would like to hear your full thoughts before sharing mine. Okay, so you can try to encourage other people to explain further. If they really do not have this plan or they are different from your thoughts, after that, you can just do the argument. Okay, so this is no hurry issue, and you should try to follow the courtesy of rotation to make sure one after another. The next one, please plan your response instead of listening. So the mistakes usually we mentally rehearse what you hear, what you say next. So a better way is we can focus more on the understanding first. And by asking the questions, what's the important or what's the core message here? So please, signs you're doing this. Pay attention to doing this, whether this can help you or not. The first one is to nod mechanically while thinking about your reply. Okay, so this is a better way for you to understand others. And thirdly, we can't just do multitasking, even though this is a subtle issue. So you cannot just do it subtly either. Like, so nowadays we have our phones, We have our laptops with us all the time. So the mistakes, typical mistakes, is just like checking emails and peek at your phone or typing while someone talks. The solution, possible one, could be close your laptop, put your phone away, and make eye contact. Yeah, it is really difficult nowadays to avoid the multitasking. But in important situations, you really have to control yourself from the multitasking because you cannot balance the time and also your efficiency in both ways. While you are doing something else, you are just showing your disrespect to the other person, especially to the speaker. Because in this way, in the multitasking, actually you cannot get what the speaker says on the stage, right? So you have to avoid the multitasking. So if you are multitasking according to the research, usually you retain 20 at least, okay, I think at least 25% less information or even more, even more. The next one is ignoring the verbal cues. That is also a common mistake we see in active listening. Like you do not pay attention to some body language brought by the speaker, like the cross arms, like the signing. So, for example, just now we share some examples, no problem, but the speaker is signing while saying the word. If you do not pay attention to these nonverbal cues, it will lead you to the opposite understanding of this communication. So, while you notice this kind of tone or posture, you can also follow by such a kind of question. Okay, you find that you seem tense. Do you want to have a talk? And also, if you offer solutions too quickly, that could be a mistake. So, for example, you just jump to here's how to fix it before they have fully explained. And a better solution is you can ask the listeners, do you need some advice? Or do you want me just be a listener right now? Okay, so these are the kind of options for the other person in the communication to choose. So otherwise, if you try to decide for themselves, it cannot solve this kind of question and may be getting even worse because the other side supposes that you do not pay attention to them or you do not care about their concerns or worries. So you can just say, "What do you think I should do?" Okay, you can think about it to give them advice in this situation. The next one is parroting instead of paraphrasing. So what is the parrot? What is the parroting? What is the parroting here? You can see repeating the words just a verbatim. So like you're upset because you're upset, you exactly copy the words they talked earlier. That is not very useful. Instead, you can rephrase by other words or phrases. So you are upset. This one is changed to it sounds like the situation frustrated you because okay you follow the reasons afterwards. So this is a kind of better way to change the word from previous speaker, and then you give your own understanding, and this is also a kind of benevolence from you to show that you really listened to him and assuming you understand. So the typical mistake is just like, I know where this is going and zoning out. Okay. And the better way for this mistake is to clarify, to try to make some corrections and like, let me summarize to make sure I got this right. So this is like an attempt to ask other people's favor to see whether you really understand the points of view delivered by others. And also, this is a great courtesy that you sometimes you really understand, but still you can say this one to mean that you are a kind of humble person. For example, you can say you do not say the euro client's issue. Just say this word, or you change to so this time the client concern was about this one specifically. So this is just a kind of clarification. And next one is also a very old school tradition for this kind of topic, avoiding silence. Okay, avoid silence. If you Okay, so if you do this, this is a kind of very typical mistake, filling every pause with chatter because silence feels awkward. Because previously we talked so much about silence used in communication, like we mentioned Finland people, when they need some time to talk about something seriously, pauses are very common, even long pauses, okay, long pauses. But people from United States or other places, they like to fill in every pause. Okay, at one hand, this is about the culture issue. Maybe today in this session we don't talk about that, but also you have to understand, even though in certain circumstances you don't have to fill every pause, okay, but a better way is you can try to make the balance really work, because sometimes the silence really encourage the deeper reflection and kind of honesty. Suppose in a classroom, the teacher talks about the lecture all the time, and the students, on the other hand, they don't have time to digest. So this is usually not a good classroom. And we, as the teachers, also leave some time and space for students to think about the question. That is why I encourage you to pause whenever there is a kind of question for you to think, okay, in our MOOC, because we want to simulate the real classroom instead of giving you lecture all the time like the traditional MOOC. Okay. For example, count to five in your head before responding. That is a kind of suggested time duration. And number nine, reacting emotionally. And in this part, some typical mistakes is just getting defensive words. That's not true, or over sympathetic. That's awful. Too emotional with your own judgment. A better way is you have to stay neutral. And in business English, actually, we try to persuade people to stay neutral in any situation. So neutrality is a very good, actually, behavior or mindset in business English, so that you can be valued by the other party. That you are not only thinking about your own interest, but also thinking about this issue, how to do it, how to solve the problems, objectively. Okay, so you can see words like help me understand why you feel that way. So this is a kind of neutral behavior you can do to the other party. And next mistake is about the forgetting to follow up. So following up is also a necessary thing for us to do. Like you just listening well in the moment, but never revisiting the topic. The better fixation is later you can ask, how is that issue going? And also show that you really care about this point. Okay. And this is the kind of the fill in the blank sentences. I hope I can give you about 5 minutes to do it by yourself. And you can refer to the word box just at the right side. So please try to select the correct and also appropriate word to fill in the blanks. Please pay attention to that the words in the box may be used more than once. don't worry if you have to use it twice or more, okay? So now you have 5 minutes to finish this exercise, and you can pause me. Okay, everybody. After the exercise, the 5 minutes, I guess you get your answers. And now let's check the answer key together. During the meeting, avoid interrupting the speaker, okay? You should let them finish their thought first. Interruption is not a good idea, but sometimes you can have some polite interruption, but pay attention to the timing and to the tone, right? Number two, show you're engaged by maintaining good eye contact. Okay, eye contact, that is a good behavior. And occasionally you can nodding. Number three, if you are unsure about a point, ask questions to clarify what the speaker means. Clarify means get clearly about some information. Okay, sometimes we just ask questions. Number four, don't rush to offer solutions. Rush to offer means just to get the conclusion, get the result, get the solutions very quickly. Sometimes people just need to feel heard. Number five, after someone speaks, briefly paraphrase their main idea to confirm the understanding. Okay, you should change the words. You cannot use their words directly in most situations. Number six, put away your phone to minimize the distractions and fully focus on the conversation. So your phone or checking emails or do other things that is not the, paying attention or listening to the speaker, it is not good. Number seven, pay attention to the speaker's tone and emotions to understand their fully message. Number eight, use brief moments of silence to process what's being said before responding. So you have to learn how to wait. Number nine, at the end of discussion, summarize the key takeaway to align the team. Summarize to give it a summary. Last one, number 10, practice patience. Active listening means resisting the urge to interrupt others. So listening basically is just like this. So we listen and we wait. After fully understand, we then feedback. Okay, so interruption definitely is a barrier, in the process of listening. So if you want to interrupt, you have to do it correctly and you have to be extremely careful. Okay, so this is the filling in the blank sentence practice. Hopefully you can get the answers correctly from this one. And now we can go to a case study, everybody. How active listening transformed a failing client's relationship. And here is an example. So we start by the company background. And here comes a company with a mid-sized, people, and it is called Next Tech Solutions. Here comes the challenge. A key client, okay, so this retail company was threatening to terminate the contract because of the poor communication and unmet expectations. But what causes the challenge? We will see the problems mentioned by the CEO. So the team doesn't listen. Okay, so the team of the Next Tech doesn't listen. Repeated said we need faster software updates, but nothing changes. Okay, the complaint never solved by the team, and you assume instead of asking. So last month updates broke our checkout system. Why wasn't this tested with us? Okay, so never notice other party before you take actions. We feel ignored. Yes, emails go unanswered for days. The initial response was defensive. So we followed the contract exactly. The delays because you keep changing requirements. Okay, the result is the satisfaction dropped 2 out of 10. Okay, start exploring the competitors. So that is a very bad result because of the misunderstanding or the bad communication because based on the active listening. So the turning point actually is we try to use the active listening intervention. Now we have the consultant who identified 3 critical listening failures just now. So actually, we mentioned earlier, I want to test you a little bit. Could you try to put down in your notebook about the 3 critical listening failures according to your understanding and analysis just now? Okay, I'll give you maybe 2 or 3 minutes. You can pause me, and after that, we go to the answer together. Okay, so here comes the 3 critical listening failures. Let's see it together. The first one is no paraphrasing. Okay, so here you just exactly copy their thoughts, but without understanding it, because sometimes assumptions will lead to mistakes. That is the failure number one. And number two, you ignore the emotional cues. Sometimes when they feel sad or when they feel their requirement is ignored, you should try to comfort or you should explain. If you never do that, the client will feel dismissed. Okay, so that is normal, and the company, just the next tech company, didn't realize before. And thirdly, about the delayed responses. So the silence will be interpreted as neglect. So if you cannot do it, at least you should give a response, right? So that is also the business courtesy. So what kind of action plan will possibly implement it if we know these 3 critical failures? The Okay, so we will just see how we can use active listening. The first one is the training for the team, because we have to let the team know the listening. If you do not have the active plan or active procedures, it will cause or lead to certain severe consequences, as we saw just now. So we have to teach our team with certain techniques like how we can paraphrase the concerns by offering some kind of responses. So like your top priority is faster updates, right? And then if you don't know some questions, you can ask some clarifications, such as, can you share an example of when we missed the mark? Or you honestly acknowledge some emotions. I hear your frustration. Let's fix this together. Okay. And next one is about the structured feedback loops. So this is a kind of systematic management of the team. For example, we should establish a weekly check-in with the company to summarize the progress, to make people feel assured about your efforts, and 24-hour response rule for all the client messages. So you can just regulate it in the documents so that the responsible personnel, they will just pay attention to the due time. And playback meetings. So this means before the coding updates, the company would just try to summarize the requirements in plain language as well as to ask them for the confirmation. Okay, after implementation of these solutions, we can see the possible results. Okay, so after 90 days, of course, the satisfaction will just rise again from 2 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. And Greenleaf are willing to sign a 2-year renewal contract with the company. And also, we are happy to see fewer mistakes, fewer errors. Okay, so that is a very ideal result after the correction by active listening and also the training to the employees in the company. Okay, so this is a kind of key quote from the Greenleaf CEO, night and day difference. Next Tech finally hears us. They repeat our needs but fix issues fast, and we feel like partner now. Okay, so since active listening is so important, so we should pay very great attention to it. And this is just the lesson I hope you can realize how we use the active listening into the trust in our cooperation. Okay, so these are the minutes, okay, or key takeaways previously for your information in the table. And the last proposed activity is a kind of paraphrase challenge. So you're going to have this kind of attentive listening, active listening activity. By the setting up, you have to pair up with the corresponding people. You choose the topic cards, okay? So these topic cards should be related with the work. And then you can have the round one by following the rubrics here, okay? And then you reverse your roles in round two. So after the 2 rounds, please have a debrief to try to summarize, okay, how did you feel just now? What was hard? How did paraphrasing change your understanding, okay? And that is all for the MOOC of the 10 sessions of Workplace English. Thank you for your support and goodbye.